Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for coming on the Thrival Nutrition Podcast. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yes, thank you for coming on. I told you watching you on Instagram for so long. I love your energy and I love what you teach. And I know we'll get into a little bit about that today. But why don't you just start off and just say who you are and what you do?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm Cassie. I'm known as Dietitian Cassie. I created dietitiancassie.com and the Real Food Vitamin Company, rfvitamins.com. And what I'm really passionate about is helping women really get to the bottom of their weight loss and lose that weight for good. And I've been doing that for the past decade. And my approach as a dietitian is very unconventional. So I think that's one reason why, my whole program and practice just really took off, was because we don't do it with counting calories or starving ourselves or, depriving our bodies. Because frankly, all of the women that we work with, when they come to my team and I, they're like, you know what? I'm really, really smart. And I've tried, all of the things. I've tried not just exercise, but every type of exercise, like running, lifting, yoga, Pilates. And then they're like, and I've dieted. I've tried every kind of diet, Weight Watchers, Atkins, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, slim fast, Beachbody, all of them. And then they're like, and I haven't just tried supplements. I've tried hundreds of pills, potions, shakes, and then there's self-improvement, like meditation and affirmation and self-love. And these women that, come to us, they're like, I've tried everything. And the problem is they feel like there's something wrong with them. And that's what breaks my heart the most. And I totally get it, because I've been there too. I was in a place at one time, it was actually when I was in school to be a dietitian, where I was following all these same rules and dieting and working out harder and eating less. And I found myself in a place where I was gaining weight and it didn't make any sense to me. It's like I was doing all the right things. So then I started to feel like there was something wrong with me. And that's where I think it's so sad and heartbreaking. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I really believe everyone's weight issue can be solved. They're just not given the right tools, the right information, the right support, the right guidance, all of that.
Right. That was a big thing when I was deciding on what I wanted to do. I was actually going to PA school. Then I kind of started having kids and I was like, a pill for every ill, no thanks. That's just not me. And so I found nutrition and I was looking into the RD program, and I kind of had that same feeling of our government is obviously doing such a good job of recommending the right stuff, that chronic diseases are down, right? And I wasn't really positive that was going to be the program for me because of that. I mean, I feel like that also is a reason why so many people are confused, because there's the nutrition experts that are supposed to be are totally saying the wrong things.
I know.
And they're taught the wrong things. And it's definitely a biggest pet peeve of mine for sure. So I love your approach. You're unconventional. How did you break that mold and why did you do it?
Yeah. Well, for me, what I practice and preach now is so different than what I learned in dietitian school. And the reality is, when I was in school and I was following all these rules, I was eating low fat and low calorie, and I was eating those little 100-calorie snack packs like they're going out of style. And I was basically starving myself. I mean, I was hungry all the time. All I could think about was what I was going to eat next. And I call myself a sugar addict too, because back then it's all I could think about. I was just consumed by thoughts of food and sugar. And it's because I was so hungry. But the problem was I was gaining weight, and not just 2 pounds or 5 pounds or even the freshman 15, but I was up 20 pounds heavier than when I started. And that was within just 6 months of starting dietitian school. And I was like, something is not working here. Then I started to think it was me.
Right.
And then what I realized was this wasn't just happening to me. This was happening to all of these people who were working harder and eating less. And then I think for me, Lahana, the tipping point was when my dad, who to me, I thought he was the picture of health. He was running races all the time. He ran 3 miles a day and he ate perfectly. I mean, I was having some sugar and probably a few drinks mixed in there, but my dad was he didn't even look at a stick of butter. He was trimming the fat off of his meat, and he didn't smoke. He didn't drink, never even looked at dessert. And I got a call my last year of dietitian school. And I remember my mom said he was running a race. And at the end of the race, instead of sailing across the finish line like usual, he was grabbing his heart, grabbing his chest as he was crossing the finish line. And they rushed him to the hospital, and he had to be rushed into immediate, totally unexpected, major heart surgery.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. And I'll never forget when I was sitting at his bedside after the surgery and the dietitian walked in, And she's like, all right, so here's the thing. You want to make sure you're eating low fat, low calorie. And I remember she had her little like notepad and she was just like lecturing him. And I didn't tell her, you know, that I was in school to be a dietitian because I thought maybe she had something revolutionary to share that I didn't know about. And I said, when she said those things, I looked at her and I said, well, he's already doing all of those things. And she goes, okay, great. Keep doing them. And I'm like, that's what landed him on your freaking operating table in the first place. And I looked at myself and I'm like, I'm 25 pounds heavier. Like, this doesn't make sense. So that's the long story. And then like the shortness of it after this is, so I started digging into the research and I was like, whoa, my whole education, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is funded by General Mills, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, like these huge companies. Like our thoughts about food are literally being paid for by food sponsors. And that was totally mind blowing to me. I was like, how did I not realize this? How is nobody else seeing this? This is just backwards here.
It's so sad. And it is. And every study that is done, it's like you can't even take things at face value anymore. You have to be like, okay, who's funding the study? You gotta look so much, and it sucks that we have to go that far and that deep into it. It should be more simple than that. But I totally understand, and I'm so sorry to hear that happened to your dad. Like, how scary. But even me, since I have 2 kids, I've been in the hospital twice, and I remember like little meal plans they'd want to give, or even people that I know that I was visiting the hospital and they're like recommended what to eat. I'm like, stop, like this is so bad.
Well, I think like the reality is, I mean, what do we really want? Like, we just want to be able to go to a restaurant and eat like a normal person. Right. And we just want to be able to go to our closet and like pick out any outfit and know that it'll fit. We just want to be able to like put on a bathing suit, go to the beach and not freak out and run for cover when somebody takes out a camera. I mean, like the thing is like, it's like, we're not asking for that much here. And the women that, you know, come to the program that I created, they're like, you know what, I just want to be normal. And I just don't want to think about food all the time. And these women, you know, they usually don't have a lot of weight to lose. Usually it's like 10 or 15 pounds. And they're like, I know it's not that much. Like, you know, it's probably a little bit vain. And I think that's one of the biggest things, like, Lahana, that I like to really focus on too, is that like, I think one of the biggest myths that we're told is that self-love and losing weight are like mutually exclusive. Like, and it just drives me crazy because it's like when you have an extra 10 or 15 pounds or even 5 weighing on you every single day, like we're not just talking about physical, we're talking about like emotional and mental, and that stands in the way of being who you were created to be, and like your confidence and your excitement about life and your joy. And I think being able to love and accept yourself for who you are is really, really important. And I also think like self-love is not the opposite of weight loss. Like it's okay. Like carrying around extra weight is no way to show your body love. And it's okay to want to lose that weight if you know that you can be healthier and a better person because of it.
Right.
And so many of us feel so alone. Like so many women are like, I don't even talk about this because I feel like my friends say that I look like I'm fine and I'm not that heavy anyway. And I remember like when I had that extra 20 pounds or more, I felt so alone. I felt like I was the only one suffering and like nobody else was dealing with this. And then like big picture, I was like, whoa, like we're all struggling with this. Like this whole, like all the thoughts about food consuming us and extra weight. And like, it's like you look at the magazine rack and there's just a million different articles on ways to lose weight. You look at the thousands of books that are produced, probably tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of books produced each year on weight loss. And it's like, everyone says they have all the answers, but it's all these like quick fixes and nothing ever like works or at least like sticks and makes the weight loss lasting.
Yes, for sure. And a lot of times like our friends, they usually don't see us naked either. So like usually that's when we're most vulnerable, and you're like, well, you don't see, you know, how I look like without clothes or without the Spanx on, you know? So it's very, you know, it can be harder when you feel alone because you feel like everyone else looks great. Why is it just me? But that's not always the case.
Totally. And especially like when we're trying to do everything right, like when we're trying to follow like all of these like dieting rules and like we're being like so obedient, we're trying so hard. And it's like when you're doing all these things that are supposed to work and it doesn't happen, like not only are you like ashamed or like embarrassed when you're like, you know, by yourself, but you're also like, what is wrong with me? Because I'm like doing all these things that are supposed to work and it's not working. And I think that's where like, I mean, like you were saying, like, it's just crazy. all the influences that like these big food companies have on where we're getting our information. I mean, last I checked, the food industry had nothing to do with how the human body functions, right? I mean, but it plays a huge role in its dysfunction, and it's something that you're not going to hear on the commercials or on primetime TV.
Right, right. So as a dietitian, you've had a lot of success with working with women. What do you feel like you found to be the most common misconceptions or myths that's believed to be true?
Yeah, I think the biggest, I think the biggest are like kind of like these obvious ones I've been touching on, like, restrict your calories and eat low fat. And like, sure, those types of things, restricting and depriving your body of what it needs, like that can work for weight loss, but it's pretty much always short term and it doesn't feel good anyway. Like anybody that's ever dieted can relate and be like, yeah, dieting sucks. Like you're crabby and you're moody and your energy levels are just low and you're craving foods. All of that is because your body is actually trying to conserve energy because you're not giving it the energy it needs. So frankly, it's like, all right, I don't trust you. So I'm just going to kind of like shut everything down to try to save energy.
Right.
So every time we diet, like in those restrictive ways, that's how we feel. So I feel like a lot of people realize that, but at the same time, that's like what we go back to because it's all we know that works, even if it only works short term. So I think the key is like, we've got to look at all the pieces of the puzzle here. And that's where in like my proprietary methodology that I created, that we walk thousands of women through like the step-by-step process, it's not just like a 10-day fix. I mean, it's several months long because what we do is we look at actually all these different, I kind of like to think your body's a puzzle. So we look at all the different pieces to the puzzle. And these pieces are things like thyroid and your hormones as women. I mean, our hormones are all over the place. If you had, a kid, or even if you haven't had a kid, I mean, even during your cycle, your hormones are all over, and that's normal. But, or it's like that's normal, but we also can target that and help your hormones be more balanced. Same with your thyroid. It's the master of your metabolism. And if your thyroid isn't working very well, you can, do anything you want to try to lose weight, but you're not going to lose weight and keep it off. Those are just a couple of pieces. We look at gut health and we look at food sensitivities and all these different pieces. And what we find is most women have at least a few pieces of their puzzle that are either out of place or they're totally missing. And once we figure out what those are, it's like a really exciting moment because it's like you finally know what the problem is and you can fix it. So then we're not in this place anymore where we're like, what's wrong with me? We're like, oh, awesome. Okay, now we can just put a plan together. So that's like why what I do is so different than what probably most people think of a dietitian, like what they think they do, because we look at food a little bit, but we're actually looking at all these other non-food factors that play a role in how your metabolism functions and whether or not you're going to gain or lose or stay the same with your weight.
Oh yeah, there's always I like that puzzle term because it's true. There's so much that makes it everyone to be such a personalized person. Like there's not a one size fits all with anyone.
Yeah.
There's gut health, like you said, thyroid, hormones, and so many things that we have to look at, even with lab work and how conventional doctors will do labs. They'll always just pick like just testing E2 for estrogen. And they don't test I love the Dutch one because it tests it all and it gives you that whole picture that you need to see like for hormones. And I feel like we need that approach with every single person because it's not just about portions and calories and how much, like all those things make a difference.
Well, you have to see that full picture of health and metabolism. And that's really what is missing from, there's so many different approaches, but they usually only look at like a little bit. And then even like kind of what I touched on a tiny bit was even some of these programs that are like, this is going to last, it's like a 10-day program or like a 2-week or even like a 2-month thing. That's not how you make lasting change, or sometimes it'll be like the right information, but then it's like they just throw you a plan and you're supposed to like figure out how to do it. So it's like there's a lot of different pieces. I think there's like the time frame that we get wrong in our mind because like on TV and radio and magazines we're flashed all these like perfect abs in 10 days or 2 weeks to your bikini body. Like that doesn't work. Yet a lot of times we do it because that's like all we know. And then there's like the right support and accountability. We've got to have that because I mean, anybody, like you look at Tiger Woods, he's like an awesome golfer and he probably knows everything about golf since the dawn of time, but he's got a coach because even people who like know the information, if knowledge were the silver bullet, we'd all have 6-pack abs and be millionaires, right? So we've got to like have the right knowledge, and we've got to have like the right support, and we've got to have a plan. And there's so many programs that just overlook at least one of those pieces. And then we just end up back where we started, more frustrated, probably fatter, and definitely feeling like we lost more self-worth and self-confidence than weight. Yeah. The key is we want to look at the whole picture and like look at all the pieces, and like most people are not going to know how to do that. Like we actually have we have tons of dietitians that go through our program for themselves. We even have doctors that go through our program because they're like, I know a lot of information, but like when it comes to like me, I need somebody else to look at me. So I think that's huge. Like asking for help too. I mean, so often like we don't want to ask for help. We're like, I just need to figure it out myself. I'll just Google a little bit longer. And like, I give like a huge applause to people that are like, you know what? I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
It's time.
Definitely.
I mean, you probably had that experience too. Like in my life, there's so many things I tried to do on my own. And I can't believe like when I started this business like 10 years ago, it was just me. Now I have a team of 10 people. And I'm like, I can't even imagine doing half or even like a tenth of what I do without my team. But it was so hard for me to ask for help.
Right, because you want to do it all.
Yeah, like I was like, I should just be able to do this. So, and same with when people come into our coaching program, they're like, oh man, like I've been meaning to send this email for like a year, and I've been scared to reach out. And I'm always like, this is such a big step. Like this is like the first step is being like, you know what, recognizing that I can't do it on my own. It's time to get some support.
Yes. And like you said, with hand holding, like people need that, especially in the beginning. So a lot of those programs that you can buy on Instagram, like those fitness ones or even health ones, like people need that person that's kind of right there beside them holding their hand. And I feel like that always gets the best results, like you said, versus doing it by yourself.
Well, because I think the other thing too is like that personalization. Yeah. So and even like, so then it goes into like, you could even have like the right person or like not the right person, but like a person supporting you. But if they're telling you to count calories and they're telling you to eat low fat, it's only going to get you so far. Right. So it's kind of like having all of those things in place that I think really is like the secret sauce, which isn't even a secret. It's just like, this is how you get successful in this area. Yet there's not a lot of programs, none really other that I know of for weight loss that are actually doing this, that are actually looking at every single part of like what makes us, like what makes you, and what makes me. Because I think like one of the biggest things that we hear our clients say is they're like, I don't want to be a different person. I don't want to like go to a restaurant and have to be like that weirdo that's like, I can't eat anything, or like go to the party and be like, sorry, like I have to have my special snacks over here. Like nobody wants to be the buzzkill. Like, right? Like, but on most diets, like that's what we're used to. So I think it's like finding something that's like sustainable. That's like the biggest thing too. Like, so when you lose weight and like keep it off, that's about like changing little things in your lifestyle versus just like restricting and losing some weight because your body was starving, but then gaining it back right after, right?
Even I like squirm when I hear like people are like, I'm doing this diet. I'm like, please don't. I don't ever say until like, they ask me or, because most people know what I do and stuff, but even when people are like, I'm going to try a new diet. And I love ketogenic. I think there's definitely benefits to it, but it's kind of one of those diets that are so like talked about right now. It was kind of like the low fat diet, and now it's like switched to opposite.
Is that interesting? Yeah, totally.
So what do you think is the most surprising component for most people?
I think one of the, maybe even the most surprising of all would be that exercise can actually backfire and cause you to gain weight. And I'm saying that very carefully because I'm a huge avid exerciser. Like I love exercise. I love working out. It makes me feel good and gives me energy, and it's a stress reliever. But there's like a healthy balance of good exercise versus not. And I think the thing is like, the reality is that when you're overdoing it with exercise, it kind of ties back into how it's not, weight loss isn't just about calories. Cause we've thought that like exercise was just the more, the better, burn more calories than you take in and you'll lose weight. And that's what we've been told for a long time. So that's why a lot of people are giving themselves gold stars for spending hours and hours ellipticaling or running at the gym. But the interesting thing actually about that is that nowadays more people have gym memberships than ever before, and we're also heavier than we've ever been. And to this day, there's actually not a single study showing that exercise alone can cause weight loss, and certainly not sustainable weight loss, because there's a lot more to it than that. So the long story short, what we tell our clients about exercise is that one of the main reasons that burning a ton of calories through exercise can actually result in weight gain, like not even just not losing weight, but you can actually gain weight because of it, is because a couple different things. There's cortisol and there's inflammation. So the cortisol thing is that too much exercise is a stressor, and stress causes your body to actually release this stress hormone called cortisol. And what cortisol does, it's so interesting. And cortisol is meant to be released when you're like being chased by a bear, or,
Right.
you know, you've heard those stories of like a car like lands on like somebody's friend and they lift up the car. Like that's because of cortisol, and they like save the friend. So that's what cortisol is for. But when we're stressed out, like, you know, even just from everyday stuff, but especially like from exercise, it can be a stressor. It spikes your blood sugar levels, and it actually causes that sugar to be stored as fat in your body. So you can literally gain weight from exercising too much without eating any differently and have it look like you're eating at McDonald's all day long. It's crazy. Like I used to run marathons and I was like, why am I not losing weight? That's why.
And it's like a natural process though of like, well, why would cortisol do that? Like, why would our bodies be designed that way? But if you think about it, I mean, just the lifestyle we live now isn't what we're supposed to be doing. And so cortisol isn't supposed to be that chronic, like, increase of it. It's supposed to be short spurts, like exercise.
It is, yeah, just like short spurts. And I think the other thing, and I'm not trying to I'm just picking on exercise because I think this is a surprising one, but it's not just exercise that can spike cortisol. I mean, being stressed out every day, you know, every single day, working too much, you know, not sleeping enough, not doing any self-care, like maybe it's meditation, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's yoga, like not including those kinds of things can also cause your cortisol levels to raise. But if you're already stressed out and then you're like throwing all of these hours of exercise on top of it, that's just like going to put you over the edge, and it can cause weight gain. And then the other part too is inflammation. So, you know, inflammation it can be a good thing. Like when you stub your toe and you see it turn red and it kind of swells up, or if you get a paper cut, something similar happens. It's a normal process in your body and it's not a bad thing. But when you get inflammation from exercising too much, basically how it works is that inflammation drains your metabolism because your body puts all of its resources towards healing that inflammation. Just like when you get a paper cut, it's kind of crazy how fast it heals. Your body's like, all right, everything goes towards that paper cut. But when you have this inflammation inside of you from exercising too much, and you can't see it or feel it, so you don't even know it's there, which is also kind of tricky about it. What it basically does is it puts all of its resources towards that, and it takes away anything that could be focused on boosting your metabolism or losing weight. Because it's kind of like there's this fire inside of you that your body is just trying to put out. And if you think about it, when you do that every single day, over and over, trying to burn calories at the gym, exercising, but really you're causing like this bigger fire inside of you, it's like almost impossible for your body to lose weight when it's got that going on inside of it. And then let's just say you restrict it of food and you start to cut back on your calories and your fat. That's where it ends up being like this really double-edged sword, because it's like your body is just in a super stressed out mode. And so many people do that to try to lose weight. And that's why it doesn't stay off. Because then when you stop dieting, your body's like, okay, well, when you start eating again, which you have to at some point, your body starts to hold on to everything because it doesn't trust you and it has no idea if you're going to starve it again.
Right.
Vicious cycle that so many of us are so familiar with.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought up exercise, because that is a big thing, especially with women. Because even now, even though I feel like my life and what I do and what I study and what I read and listen to, I'm like, how can people not know that? But still a lot of people don't know that about exercise. And you can still see the divide of like strength training, like mostly men, maybe one or two women. But like treadmills will be filled up, ellipticals will be filled up. And it's so crazy that I feel like it hasn't, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm in the space and this is what I do, that I'm like, go get lifted weights. What are you doing?
Totally. And, you know, I think too, and the thing is exercise, I'm not like the exercise Grinch. I love exercise. So I think the thing is making sure that you're getting enough rest and recovery. And it's different for everyone, but generally that means like exercising maybe 3 or 4 times a week and not doing like 2 hours on the elliptical like I used to do. The best kind of exercise that boosts your metabolism is actually shorter lengths. It's like short intervals of intense activity, like maybe 15 seconds on and then like 15 or 30 seconds off, of doing things like, you know, jumping jacks, and then you take a break, and then you'll do push-ups and take a break, and do a plank and take a break, and some of those body weight exercises, but really not doing that for more than like maybe at the most a half hour. But even like 10 or 15 minutes, that's plenty to boost your metabolism. That's the type of exercise that's like the best for losing weight.
No excuse at that point, because a lot of people are like, I don't have time. I'm like, you really just need 10 minutes.
Just do it in your living room, like before you hop in the shower. 10 minutes earlier. Anybody can do 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Would you say that would be your number one action step of boosting your metabolism, or do you have another one?
You know what? I'll just give you a really quick one. I think the number one tip for boosting your metabolism would be to eat more fat, like good, healthy fats. Because even though we hear about healthy fat, we're so brainwashed. Like it can take so long to like actually get this into our head. So fat actually boosts your metabolism and helps you lose weight if it's the right types. So I'm talking about butter. You know, olive oil, everybody knows is good, but butter is good for you too. So is coconut oil, even though there was like that, you know, false. I wrote a whole article on that. If you want to hear about coconut oil, just Google Dietitian Cassie coconut oil and it'll pop up. You know, avocados, so good for you. Nuts, seeds, heavy cream. I mean, I have at least, I don't know, half of a cup of heavy cream a day. It's so good for your body. But not the types that are like, the types that are inflammatory that can actually cause inflammation are like vegetable oil, which is so confusing because there's actually no vegetables in vegetable oil.
Right.
Such a crazy term. So like, you know, canola oil, cottonseed oil, any of those types of oils want to stay away from. I said canola oil. But a couple
soybean. I mean, like the list goes on for some reason for those.
Yeah, soy. I'm glad you like said soybean oil too, because soy can interfere with our female hormones too. And I ate soy like it was going out of style because I thought it was good for our heart and I thought it was good for like my hormones or something, but it can actually really mess up your hormones. So as women, we really need to be careful. I don't think a little bit here and there is the end of the world, but making sure we're not like trying to get our protein from soy products is a good way to keep your hormones balanced.
And I think just our soy in the US of soy milk, soy cheese, and so much processed soy, I'm the same way of like a little bit of whole fermented sources, miso, natto, you know, tempeh, like all those are fine. I feel like, in moderation, but like all this other soy junk is just hurting us.
Totally. And for the heavy fat, I was trying to say heavy cream and healthy fat at the same time. I just want to tell you the amount. You want to make sure you're having a couple tablespoons every single time you eat. So you might think that's, you know, not a lot. We're not talking about like a stick of butter at every serving. We're talking about just like maybe 2 tablespoons of healthy or heavy cream in your coffee, or maybe half of an avocado chopped over your salad, or maybe it's just a couple tablespoons of olive oil over your salad, or maybe you're cooking your eggs for breakfast and a couple tablespoons of coconut oil. So even just like a little bit like that throughout the day, I mean, within a day, people notice that their energy levels go up, their brain is like more focused, like that brain power is higher. You'll feel so much better. Cravings go away. Fat is really, really good for you.
Do you like MCT oil too? I know.
I do. With MCT oil, I just want to be careful. Like maybe you just start with 1 tablespoon. Otherwise you might be running to the bathroom right after you not really scared away. No, but MCT oil is really, really a good healthy fat. It's like the most concentrated part of coconut oil. So it's good for your brain and your metabolism.
Well, thank you so much for all the information you shared with us. Where can we find you?
Thank you. Yeah, dietitiancassie.com. That's where the party starts. And I've also got a new training coming up called Eat More to Lose More. I'm doing like an online live training. And you can find out more information about that at dietitiancassie.com/free training.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes too, so people can find it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun. I appreciate it.